Keep It 100 is brought to you by Triple Double. Clapping cheeks and taking names since 1987. La 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 la. This is a quote from my haters. You got me feeling like the greatest, yeah. Bitch, I'm about to blow up. Wait for it. Bitch, I'm about to blow up. There we have it. Or should I say, there we go. Before we get into the quote of the hour, oh, by the way, my name is Casey Huckle. This is Keep It 100. Let me tell you about the show. So 100 is a reference to how many quotes I'm going to cover throughout the show. I started out on fire, doing 2 quotes a week, and the plan was to be done in, a year, right? Because there's 52 weeks in a year. Take 2 weeks off, 2 times 50 is 100. But unfortunately, I hit a snag. I got discouraged. And I gave up around 60 episodes in. Now we're just picking it back up where we started. And if you're just joining us, I'll tell you what this is about, where I find these quotes that they could be from a Bible verse, song, a poem, something someone said to me on the street, your tombstone, what have you. They just have to be, most of them are pithy. They don't have to be pithy. Some of them can just be jokes. Some of them can be just funny. But most of them are adages, and I apply what they mean to me in that moment of time in my life. So they've gotten me through some tough times and will continue to do so, and inspired me to make this podcast. Keep It 100. So without further ado, I bring to you Keep It 100. Good morning, boys and girls. I am your host, Mr. Casey Huckle. And today we're going to talk about authenticity. What does authenticity mean to you? What I know about authenticity is that it's got to come from within, right? You're being authentic to yourself. And it's been a few days since I put out my last shit, Bitterness, and I realized that, oh man, like I was kind of fishing through different quotes to go with. For this episode, my brain was like, it's on a timer. It's like, oh, a few days have gone by. You got to choose something. And all I could think about was authenticity. And actually, it started with, and it pivoted from, from an earlier episode, from episode 40 something from the show on to be yourself on when you're living in a society that's constantly, or a world that's constantly trying to change who you are. The greatest accomplishment you can be is to be yourself. And I struggle with this. I'll be honest. Conformity and self-improvement, trying to be better than who you really are, lying, exaggerating, acting, not speaking your mind. I mean, it's especially hard with this PC culture that we're living in, right? Which sucks. I feel like we're going backwards. Like we've over evolved, and now people are becoming weaker and weaker. At first, it was like, with cavemen, when we were cavemen, it was like the biggest concern was animals, and now, jump forward thousands of years. Now our biggest concern is like being canceled. Like, come on, what the fuck? What are we, a bunch of pussies? What the fuck has happened? Like, we've just become more and more sensitive, and me included. I get my feelings hurt. Yeah, I'm afraid to say and to tweet and do things, and that's kind of what brought me here. What kind of brought on this authenticity lecture that I'm giving is really about
being yourself. And I can use today as an example where I decided, like when I think of, I had two interviews. Okay, one was a Zoom interview, the other was a phone interview. And I decided to kind of rebel. I was going to do the video interview, like kind of laying down. I was on a couch. But for a while, like my nerves were telling me, oh no, you got to set it up. You got to be at a desk. You got to put the laptop right at eye level. You have to put on a dress shirt and khakis, maybe a tie. And then after a few minutes of like debating about it was that versus fuck it. I'm just gonna uh, wing it. Just gonna go with whatever I feel, and that's been tough for me lately because I've had such a hard time gaining employment and staying employed that I, as a result, don't know who I am, and I think would maybe serve. I would serve as maybe a great example because I feel for this episode to speak about authenticity because I've gone back and forth between do I try to be who they want me to be or who I want to be, and I mean if I really had my druthers, it'd be like I could call people out when they're being dishonest or where I feel like yeah things are forced and we're talking about like for example. And by the way, yeah, I did the interview while laying down on the couch. I wore a dress shirt because I like wearing dress shirts. That's who I am. I've always been preppy, right? Coming from Princeton, New Jersey, where it's one of the most elite school. It's got one of the most elite colleges in the world, Princeton University. My sister always had me wearing Abercrombie and Fitch, Brooks Brothers, Burberry, the Lacoste was my favorite shit. So that's who I am. But instead of like going up to a desk, going downstairs where we have this long desk and kind of a stand where you could put your laptop. I was like, you know what, fuck that. I'm just gonna do this interview laying down on a couch, and I I fucking made it, and it actually turned out okay, And so while I had the dress shirt, I was laying down, kind of, and so as I was like reclined during the interview, and it actually turned out okay. I think he likes me, you know. And if I could look at it from the other side, um, I can see how like corporations. It's like I don't understand. I think probably because I've been rejected so many times that I'm angry, and I find it fitting that just like very ironic that I put on Fight Club last night because I'm just like sick of consumerism, materialism, corporate culture, conformity, all that shit. And so yeah, I think Brad Pitt and and Edward Norton inspired me to. I mean, starting a Fight Club would be. I'd be scared to do it, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I should do that. I think I would win because I'm so big and strong and angry. But and this fucking podcast. I mean, I worry that if someone were to listen to this who who was responsible for me would be like, yeah, you're fired, or they'd shame me. They'd blame me, they'd criticize me, and then I'd feel bad about it. But fuck it, I just don't. That's the premise of this episode. Please speak your mind. I think I'm a bit scared of kind of how powerful my mind is and how much potential I have that I can run sometimes because I don't know who I am yet because I've been rejected. I'm sensitive to rejection. But to go on, I know I may be all over the place, but I have a lot to say and I have a lot of my mind to speak here. So then the second interview, I was determined since it was on the phone. I was determined to do it without a shirt, wearing a shirt, just like, just like the gentlemen who are part of Fight Club, right? And I almost didn't wear. I almost did not keep the shirt off. I almost kept it off because I ended up putting on a shirt because I went outside and it was too cold to be without a shirt. And I knew that conversation could go for a while. And then sure enough, it went maybe 25, 30 minutes. And I noticed that I could sense some desperation. It's actually kind of you can kind of be seduced by it because you're like, oh, like they're interested in me. Like you could take it personally, like, oh, they love me, but you don't want to go that far because an interview is business. And what I was getting at just a couple minutes ago is that on the other side, right, is I can only imagine that, like, if you've logged many years in a corporation, like your independent ideas can kind of get drowned out for the group, for the company, for that big body called a corporation. I mean, that's what corp means. I believe it's Latin, right? Corpus, meaning body. So it's just like it's a body of a accumulation of a bunch of people, right? Or multiple bodies. I don't really know exactly how it's interpreted, but I guess it's a bunch of people who make up one big body, and that would be a corporation. And while I was flattered that they both complimented me, you got to remember that it's ultimately about the money. And so I wanted to touch on how Fight Club, just what I've kind of been covering with Fight Club, came out in 1999. How similar? So it's at the end of the how similar it is to. It came out the same year as The Matrix, and it looks a lot like The Matrix. It's got the same tone, and so my laptop just went to screensaver, but we're still kicking here. So so there's a similarity between Fight Club and The Matrix, both visually and with the plot. And I noticed that they both dropped at the end of the year, at end of the century, the last year of the 1900s, and kind of how it can be maybe kind of represent maybe an angst about. It's all about fighting, especially Tyler Durden. I feel like Tyler Durden and maybe Morpheus they're similar characters, and then Keanu Reeves' character Neo and Edward Norton's character, the narrator, he doesn't have a name. So they're like every man who get thrown into this new world and are kind of forced to be heroic, right? Because they're trying to fight consumerism and conformity and materialism and groupthink. So I just found it interesting that they both came out at the end of the century, and I was only 11 years old. I turned 12 in December 11th, 1999. Would have been the day I turned 12 years old. I don't remember what I did on my birthday, but probably had a lot more fun than I'm having now, because I didn't grab on to the ills of society and responsibility and conformity. But at the time, all I can say about 99 is maybe there was a lot of fear and anxiety we were forced into this technological revolution. And maybe that's kind of what, especially with The Matrix, with all this code, there was kind of a division between, do you be yourself, or are you just another Office Space too? Are you just another, just a number? Are you a number, or are you the one, right? Are you just a number, or do you sell soap? Which I'd never heard of before. I don't know any soap salesman. Okay, are you just another number crunching, cubicle laden